Okay, so hi one more time, and thank you a lot for joining today. So for the webinar, which is organized by Talent Place, I'm really excited to have you here, and this is really great opportunity for us to create a room for knowledge exchange and future implementation of the 4-day working week. Talent Place as well, probably. So for those who don't know me, I'm Sandra and I work in a global IT recruitment industry, and I've always been involved in connecting people and creating targeted communities. And I want to take a minute to introduce our guest speakers. And so let's start with Annika, and she's the head of people operations at Scoro Software, the company who builds management software, helping businesses in more than 60 countries to increase their margins. As a result, Scoro uses their own software to successfully switch the company to 4-day work week. Then we have Eva Skubida, Director of Talent Acquisition at G2i, and this is the hiring platform for connecting qualified developers with incredible companies. And the company focuses on vetting and serving clients in support of healthy work environments that improve their health and enabling professionals like professional growth through restful work. And we have Maciej Sawicki, the founder of inStreamly, the platform connecting metaverse creators with brands. The platform is being increasingly used by 50,000 people and streamers and over 100 brands such as Netflix, Samsung, and Adidas. In 2022, inStreamly introduced the 4-day work week. So I want to thank you, our guests, for taking the time to come and share your knowledge and giving real life examples here. And before we move forward, I would like to make sure that everyone can hear us. So whoever join us, please write and say that you can actually hear us, and it would be really nice to know where you're coming from. So since we're hosting this international webinar, so it's not only in Poland. So hello, Anne. And so meantime, I would like to also talk about quickly about house rules. So we'll also take questions throughout the webinar. So please feel free to type them into the question box, not the chat box. So we plan to have a conversation for 45 minutes and then QA session for the last 15 minutes of the webinar. Hello, Gosha. Thank you for joining. Hi, Clara. So everyone can hear us for now. Yeah, I think we can start. So without further ado, let's take the show on the road, right? So today's topic of our discussion is a 4-day work week and how to implement changes and not to repeat the duplications of errors. So the 4-day work week is a dream for many employees, and most employees these days are really willing to change to 4-day working week. So such a scary concept so far. However, Maciej, who is the founder of inStreamly, so decided to go against the grain and actually implement this a new solution in his company. So can you please share with us what has actually convinced you to do this and this change from the business point of view to implement the 4-week working day, 4 working week day?
Yeah, sure thing. So hello, everyone. I would start with just some short introduction to draw the context. I think the context is very important here, not to go straight into the topic of the 4-day working week, but to understand where it comes from. So first of all, this is part of a larger plan. I would say we believe in a more flexible, less traditional relationship between the company and the people who create it. And for a long time now, we've been working fully asynchronously. We have no office, we have no expectations of when someone starts and when someone finishes work. And I think we are a good example of a company that tries to measure the results of work rather than time spent on it. So the next logical step was to see, what if we question the fact that you have to work 5 days a week? And we proposed a 4-day working week. And referring to your question, from business point of view, well, We believe that business is not about maximizing profits, or at least not only about maximizing profits. It's about making the company a safe, good place for all who work in it. And that's why we gave it a try. That's why we decided to work for the 4 days a week.
Okay. Thank you very much. Annika, I know that the idea is one thing and implementation is a completely another. So I know that you guys devoted almost half a year to prepare for the change and go through the some kind of experiment to use it in and to use your own product in order to be more efficient and structured and save time. So maybe you could tell us what is the process was moving from the idea to implementation itself and how it looked like for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. Always very happy to share our journey. So at Scoro, we have always been very focused on efficiency and productivity. And this is also what our product is about. We help our customers to use their time more wisely. And, you have to practice what you preach, right? So at one point, it became really clear that switching to a 4-day work week is a natural next step for us. And it matches our company and also product philosophy. So we announced the change in January this year and agreed that we will make the switch from July 1st. And the time between January and July, like you just said, was dedicated to preparations. And we took the preparations really seriously because although we wanted to decrease the working hours, we didn't expect less in terms of outcome. Mm-hmm. So we understood that we need to find ways on how to work even smarter. And in this process, we involved our whole team. So everyone who wanted had the chance to contribute. And we compiled 7 squads who focused on different work areas: communication, meetings, time management, focus and prioritization, automation, well-being, and operations. And then these squads analyzed the current situation, what works well, what could be improved, and based on that, they created new frameworks, new ways of working, basically. And when doing that, they also set really clear goals. What do we want to achieve in these areas? Specific and measurable OKRs. The squads introduced the new approach of each work area in an online training session to our team. And after that, we gave access to the more detailed guidelines. But we understood that when implementing such a big change, then we need to make sure that absolutely everyone understands what is expected of them and that they feel supported during the process. And therefore, we invited team members, our people, to volunteer and act as 4-day workweek champions. So we have a group of people to whom everyone can turn if they have any challenges with the new work setup and if they need any help. And of course, the 4-day workweek champions are supported by the squads. And maybe just for illustration, it would be interesting to know what are the new, at least like some, because we have many, but what are some of the new agreements that the squads came up with and that we implemented in our team. So Wednesdays, for example, are internal meeting free for us so that people can have full day for focus time. Then our meetings are shorter and we have certain expectations for meeting preparations, for example. Then many meetings and even more to come are held asynchronously because very often you don't have to get together in person to discuss things. We have a really concrete agreements regarding communication, which channels you use for which communication exactly, and do's and don'ts are in place. We have switched off the notifications in our email and Slack to reduce reactive work mode. And also maybe one thing from well-being, because for us also it's really important that people lead a balanced life. And for this, we have dedicated group of people who initiate different physical and mental health challenges, activities, educate people, and advocate a healthy lifestyle. Because even if we want to work as efficiently as possible, and efficiency and productivity are some words that I'm going to use here a lot, people well-being is one of the top priorities for us. And yeah, like you mentioned, we use Scoro, our products ourselves. We use it for our calendar. We have our tasks there. We use it for project management, task automations. So Scoro has definitely played a very big role in making our process smoother and structured, and also supported us on the 4-day workweek journey.
Yeah, thank you a lot. We got a question from Anne, and the question is like, how employees actually reacted to such a change in the work model? Probably the employees who were already working with Scoro, and then, what was the reaction?
The reaction was, of course, very positive. But even before announcing the news in January, before that, we had a company-wide survey where we already asked what people think about this solution, if they have any worries maybe also tied with it, so that we already took all these things into account when starting the preparation work. But of course, yes, I mean, we announced it on our all hands where everyone was present. People travel twice per year to Tallinn across the globe. So doing it in person, it was a very nice moment, I must say.
Good, thank you. Eva, I know that you've joined G2i not so long ago, so you actually were not doing the implementation at the company. So maybe you could tell us your experience from the candidates' viewpoint and the future employees who joined the company with the 4-day working week. Was there anything that surprised you, or maybe that some kind of habits and practices that you had to rearrange on your daily routine? So yeah, if you could tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for most people, that joined G2i after the 4-day work week was implemented, like there was definitely an adjustment, and I was no exception here, because it's not just in organizing yourself at work, but also the implications it has on your lifestyle outside of work, to be honest. So I'd say that there are probably 3 main rules or lessons, I guess, for me after shifting to the 4-day work week. And the first one is a funny one, because you should make plans for your day off. Something that surprised me massively. It does sound funny, but it's very important at the beginning to have some sort of plan on like how you want to use your extra day off in a way that not only restores you, but it also means that you're not tempted to dive into work. So that will be one. And then another, probably my favorite, would be minimizing meetings and truly shifting to this asynchronous work, right? So at G2i, we don't have a strict rule on when to take a day off, right? It's not that everyone's off on Fridays or Wednesdays. We just have 32-hour work week, and we have teams across various time zones. So people generally work very different times, very different days even, and that really forces you not to rely on anyone being there, at the same time. And it's just so refreshing when you can just find yourself with so much time for focused work, instead of sitting on meetings you may not necessarily have to attend. So minimum meetings, asynchronous work, also what Annika said about like turning off notifications from Slack. So we're moved completely from Slack to tools that just kind of help us support this asynchronous work and just kind of like not create the sense of urgency and someone having to be there. And then the rule number 3, the most important one probably, is prioritization. So we call it a rule of hell yeses. So before you decide to work on something, like, take on a specific project, you need to ask yourself, is this a hell yes for me, for my team? Will this directly affect our progress towards the quarterly goal? And then, if the answer is no, or it's maybe, or it's even, a shy yes, just drop it. Like, we don't have enough time to do this right now. We only have to work on what is a hell yes and helps us to get where we need to be, because every hour counts here, right? There is no procrastination. So yeah, so I definitely say that joining a company with 4-day work week like requires you to make some changes and get used to very different work style, where prioritization and respecting everyone's time, your time included, is just the most important thing.
Thank you. That's a really good point about your day off. I think I heard something that also Maciej, you shared with me about the surveys, and that people sometimes feel uncomfortable at home, and they have some problems because one partner is working 5 days, another is 4 days. So I think this is really common struggle so far. Okay. Okay, good. So let's move on. We got some questions, but I think it would be good to come back to them in the end of the session. So we'll leave some of them, and we'll also use some of them during the conversation. So Annika, I got a question for you. So I know that you and Scoro Software set yourself as really transparent, and you go through the entire process, like you're really honest about it, how it works. And so could you tell us a few reasons for this, and maybe tell us a little more about challenges that you face during these implementations? And what are your main goals, where you're actually able to meet your goals, like 100%? And yeah, maybe in the end, you could say, like, what kind of advice would you have for the companies that are actually at the idea stage, or maybe preparation process?
Sure. Yes, you are right. Our goal is to be really transparent and share our journey, because today you can find a lot of material about the benefits of the 4-day work week, but not so much like practical advice, how to do it, how to actually make it work, where to start, etc. So that you wouldn't lose business-wise, and so that it would be like a win-win solution both for the employee and also for the company. And that's something that we want to change. So we will share our framework, our learnings, our failures, so that other companies can consider them when planning their approach. So for us, it's like a wider mission, not just switching to a 4-day work week, but actually inspiring and encouraging others. And when you ask about the challenges, then I must say that we didn't face too many challenges. And I think that two main reasons for this were that we had our team involved, and everyone was either involved in the squad work or giving feedback to the initial thoughts. So people were engaged and, of course, extra motivated, because it's a great perk. And people understand today also that creating the framework was one thing, and now it's up to them to make it actually work. So having a good and devoted team definitely helped. And also that we took the time for preparations, and we didn't rush into it, because very often you see also companies trying it out. But I think that when you don't prepare, when you don't think through, then you really easily get to the point when you see, okay, that doesn't work. So, just spending more time for preparations can be one of the keys for success. But like overall, when thinking about the challenges that teams can experience, then I think it's connected with mindset change. Because, I mean, when we talk about efficiency, productivity, then like very often people prioritize and talk about being money smart, but being time smart, energy smart, this is often secondary, if that. So investing to educating people on that, I think, is really important. And for us, I think the challenge that we are already, of course, working on, and we have an onboarding program in place for that, is to get the new joiners also on board and help them to to understand this Scoro mindset. So maybe that. But when talking about goals, then like I mentioned, so each squad had their own goals. But you can learn more about them from our blog because we have many, and we will measure our progress against these OKRs or goals during 1 year. So we will make the first conclusion actually at the end of September based on our team survey and also the data that we get from our Scoro platform. But of course, we have made some checks already because you are curious about what's happening,
Sure.
and these are already very promising. For example, our team happiness has increased. We have measured it for years already. We do it on a monthly basis. So it's currently 8.9 out of 10. We see that time spent on meetings has already decreased a lot, and we have automated a lot of processes where we again win more time. And something that we didn't list as a concrete goal, but where we see that the effect has been quite big, is recruitment. So the number of candidates has multiplied. For example, in August 2022, we received 5 times more applications compared to August last year. And I really can't say that only people who want to work 4 days a week apply. Instead, we can really clearly see that that we are more attractive to talent now, and they notice us more. And so I cannot share at this point exact results, but I also want to say that we don't get too worried if we don't reach them right away, because we see that it's a journey and our goal is to work out a solution that works for us. So that means that if we need to change something, we will do that. So measuring our processes, adapting accordingly, I think that's the key.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions. So one is for you, Annika. So from Clara, because you mentioned about this achievements and the satisfaction of employees. So the question is, how did such change in the work model actually affect the achievement of employees' goals? The focus is on the achievements, it's probably satisfaction and decreasing of the meeting, that's for sure, but how about the real I would say results?
So I think that I could answer this more clearly in after we have done the survey. I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly at the moment.
Okay.
I can't see it.
Yeah, so it's in the question box, so I'm the only one who can see it, but that's good. I think that's enough. If you could will you be sharing it in the blog?
Yes, so we will summarize everything, all our data, all our survey results in a summarized format, and we will publish it up in the blog. And I can already see that someone asked it. Yes, exactly. So if you go to our website, it's really easily foundable there.
Okay, perfect. I've got a question for you because Annika already mentioned about the increase of the talent pool. So I would also want to ask you about how does it look at your company at G2i, and does this actually increase the talent pool of candidates as well? And how do candidates at your company react to this fact? And for example, those who don't really know about 4-day week, and how does it affect the employee retention in your company as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 32 hours 4-day work week, it just sounds like a dream come true for many candidates. So it definitely allows us to stay competitive, with larger organizations, as generally high quality candidates find immense value in this work model, I'd say. We all started to finally prioritize our health now, often finally above those fancy job titles, offices with games, things like that. And the 4-day model is definitely a massive help to do that in terms of prioritization of your own health. So of course, like it's an extra day off is a massive life-changing benefit, right? That's still rare on the market. If you see a job offer that's listing, like once you just apply, even if you're not on the job search. So yeah, it helps massively with increasing our applicants pool, and it's definitely amazing for retention. Like once you started working in a 4-day work week model, you just won't want to come back to the traditional 5 days unless you're forced to, right? So there are not many offers out there really offering the same model yet. No one wants to leave, right? Because there is nowhere else that they can go for that. But it's also important to remember that the 4-day work week is not everything, right? Like next to it, you also need healthy company's culture, healthy working environment. Like giving your employees an extra day off is just great, but by itself, it just won't solve all your problems. People can still get burned out or work, in toxic environment and wanting to leave, even if they're working only 20 hours per week, right? And there is also a tricky side of this in recruitment, I would say, because yes, your talent pool increases, but you have to be so much more diligent in checking candidates' motivation and whether they are actually well aligned with the company's values, with culture, with needs that you have. Because when everyone is so excited and willing to come because of the 4-day work week, how do you make sure that this is not the only thing they want to come to you for? Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing for recruitment, for retention, but it's just not a gold solution to everything. There are challenges too, and I think that's just important to keep in mind.
Yeah, that sounds like a kind of challenge, another challenge. So thank you for that. Maciej, before this webinar, we had a brief chat, and I remember that you mentioned that there's like not really enough information online about 4-day week, and most of the companies, they're not really like clear what they actually need to do to switch to a 4-day week and what kind of solutions they need. So in your opinion, what does every business owner need to take into account when considering the implementation of a shortened work week?
Obviously, the specifics of the company must be taken into account. I think it's so much easier to go to this change for companies that work just a little with clients, like let's say a deep tech startup, and then let's compare it with advertising agency that is actually bonded with the clients. The clients require the attention all the time. This is very challenging. So I would say taking into account the specific of the business is crucial. But at the same time, I would encourage you to, or maybe not you, but those who are thinking about this change, to think more about some kind of flexibility in your work mode, not necessarily to always have 1 day off, because people think, okay, either we go with the Friday off or let's say Monday off, or we do nothing. And I believe there is also another solution. You can start with 1 day a month that you go offline, or 1 quarter when you work less. I don't think it needs to be a revolutionary change to have an effect. And later, exactly like Annika mentioned, you can observe what are the effects of such a change and adjust your decisions to the situation. So I often hear people saying like, oh, we won't try because it's going to ruin our company. But really, it can be just a little change and you can observe what's going on then. And I think that could be an option for example, the advertising agencies I mentioned, maybe not to start very bold at the beginning, but just to make a small step forward.
Cool, thank you. So based on that, have you considered moving back to a 4-day week permanently or for a while from the business perspective?
Yeah, basically after a couple of months working in 4 days model, we decided to return in the 4th quarter of 2022 to 5 days a week, to work in 5 days a week. So it's because in the media industry, this is the time when there is the most work, and historically for inStreamly, our company generates around 35 to even 45% of its turnover. And we basically need this revenue because by meeting targets, we are able to work less in the remaining time. So in the first quarter of 2023, we will return once again to work 4 days a week. So I would say that we try to use the 4-day work mode as a tool flexibly, and we use it when it's possible. When we need to work more and we see that, well, we have so much to do that we can afford working just 4 days, we make the decision together and just work more.
Interesting. How do people react to that?
So I would come back to the thing I mentioned in the beginning and also agree with Eva that it's not a thing that would solve all your problems. So that's why I don't think that you can do it in every company, because people need to be very aware of what they have to do and why they have to do. We are quite a small company, just 70 people working in the company. We are also very transparent. Annika mentioned this, and I think that transparency is so much important when it comes to decisions like 4-day working week. And it's so much easier to manage this kind of decision in a company that actually is fully transparent. So in our case, when people exactly know what is our financial situation, what are the goals, I think this decision of coming back to the 5-day working mode for a couple of months for the 4th quarter was first of all taken together after a discussion. And the other thing is that we just see that it's needed. It's needed for us to be able to come back to the 4-day work week later on.
Okay, good. Thank you a lot. Thank you. That's a really nice approach. I think everyone else in the company feels as a part of the company, not just employee, I believe. So, okay. So, Eva, I know that the shortened work week is intended to improve employees' well-being. So, and your company at G2i, you came up with this program to support the mental health of your employees. So maybe you could share with us how the 4-day work week helps to deal with this burnout at the workplace, or maybe this phenomenon on everyone's lips, which is a quiet quitting. And everyone has its different view on it, so, and how to kind of translate it. So yeah, maybe you could give us a little overview.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the 4-day work week was introduced in G2i as a way to support, those suffering from burnout, stressful times, and also most importantly, or hopefully rather, preventing it from ever happening, right? So it is designed to help employees slow down and support them individually in kind of finding balance in their lives by creating a restful culture. So G2i's culture centered on employees' well-being was actually inspired by our CEO's, Gabe Greenberg's story of recovering from chronic illness and burnout. And as Gabe learned to slow down, he looked at how he could incorporate that mentality pretty much directly into the organization that he founded. So something that I often mention is that what we were taught to expect is 5 days, 40-hour work week, right? And measuring our success by what is our job title and how high is our salary. That's it, right? But there is a better measurement of success. And sure, job title, salary, all that is there, but also what's the state of your physical health, your mental health, how much free time you have, and whether you like what you do professionally, right? You need to assess all of those elements in your life to truly measure your work-life success. And now, by introducing the 4-day work week, we are creating the system that supports all of those other elements as well that are missing from this traditional model of only having the job title and salary as the success measurement. So yeah, I would say that 4-day work week does help to fight with burnout, by supporting all of those elements in our life. And as for quiet quitting, that's a funny concept. So like, just I'm not sure if everyone knows about it, but it's about employees pretty much sticking to like the minimum requirements of performing tasks that are within your job description, but you do not go above and beyond. So I would turn that into a question like, would you not perform at your very best when the company is offering you such a great model as a 42-hour work week? Like, an extra day off is, as I mentioned, is a life-changing benefit, right? So for as long as it's such a rare model, I say we shouldn't have a problem with quiet quitting, the same way that we shouldn't really have a problem with retention. But also, if you have shorter week, right, like you need to stay focused, and that means doing exactly your job. There's no time for an extra project or anything that's not necessary. This hell yes that I mentioned before, right? So I would say if that doesn't help for preventing burnout, and that doesn't support, someone's work-life balance and mental health, then I don't know what does. But also, as I mentioned before, this is just one element, right? That kind of like supports this better success measurement, I would say, and supports us in all areas of supports in having this balance in all areas of our lives. But there's also just so much more that you have to do in terms of creating a healthy company culture, respecting PTOs, things like that.
Sure. Are you actually able to talk a little more about or share with us about these measurements that you have, or there's, I know, a blog that you have where people can talk about or like read about it and probably discuss, or you can share a little bit about it right now if you are comfortable.
So I didn't really mean this measurements is something that you actually go ahead and measure. We didn't really do this kind of survey. Like, we're also a very small company, and I came like after the experimentation with the implementation was done. But what I mean by those measurements is we have this graphic I can share later, but it's pretty much, this is a pie chart, right? And this traditional model with half of that being job title and half salary, and this is like how people just measure success, right? So like, if I'm going to ask you like, how are you? Who are you? Right? Are you happy with your job? And you're going to say, yeah, it's great because my position is this and that, and I earn that much money. Well, that's not where your happiness ends, right? And that's not where your fulfillment or your success ends. You also, are you mentally healthy? You're not feeling burned out. Do you have enough time for sport, right? To keep healthy lifestyle. Do you like what you do? So you have this great job title, but the job that you're actually doing, is a nice job, right? So this is just a better way to work. And in terms of a measurement, like, we're not measuring that. It's more a question that everyone just asks themselves, right? Am I happy with my life? And then obviously there's just so many things outside of work. But if we're talking about working environment that generally supports your mental well-being, and it makes sure that you're not doing overtime, you're not overworking. No, you're actually doing less than, let's say, what the traditional model would tell you. So then, yeah, I mean, there are much bigger chances that you're going to say yes in all of those, let's say, pie chart elements.
Yeah, sure. I think it's all about awareness, as it is. So if people being a little more aware, like every day, every hour of their day, right? And just asking themselves a question if they really like what they do. So I think that's a really great thing. Okay, thank you a lot. Maciej, so there is a 4-day week. Is it really more about marketing, or it really has real value? Because we've heard different opinions here. And what is your opinion? And what business actually gains? And what do you see it like from the implementing this type of solution?
Obviously, it's not just marketing, although it has a big impact on marketing, understood as the image of the company. So it's same as Eva mentioned. One of the most important aspects that for day work week has had a positive impact on is how candidates perceive us in the recruitment process. We've been also seeing way more candidates approaching us, asking, hey, maybe there's opportunity to work with you because because you are working 4 days a week, but also they see us as a modern company that thinks about more than just making money. So I wouldn't say that they apply only because there is the option to work less. They apply because they see we are a company that's thinking differently. And that's a good thing when you need to fight for the best people. And I also think it's good to ask a very simple question. Do you prefer to have best people working 4 days a week, or not so best people working for you 5 days a week? So I leave it with the question. And at the same time, I absolutely disagree that this is just marketing. This is an issue that has a huge positive impact on the culture of the organization and thus on all those who create the organization. I would say that this won't make us happy people, as Eva mentioned, but definitely it's a great help if you have 3 days off and you can spend the additional day on whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you a lot. Thank you. Annika, I know that you want the solution in your company to be permanent, and maybe you could tell us about challenges you see in the long term, and maybe to sum up the debate, like what do you think that can convince other companies to implement this type of solution? We actually got a question like this, like how to convince the company or the employer to switch to a 4-day week. So I think it's 2 questions.
Yes. Yeah, for us, this is a permanent change. And like I said, we monitor how it goes and we make changes where they are needed. But our goal is to have it on a permanent basis. And we are very optimistic about our approach, and we see that the 4-day work week one day will be a norm, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but at one point it is so. And I might sound very naive, but we don't see big challenges. And I have to repeat myself because the main thing probably is that when people join Scoro and we expand our team rapidly right now, then it's important to get them on board, to introduce them the Scoro mindset and support them when introducing and adapting to Scoro ways of working. So that's like the main thing I think that can be considered as a challenge. But getting people on board with everything what we do, I think that already eliminates potential challenges. But about convincing, what would convince people to switch to this approach? Then I would say that, of course, there are many benefits of 4-day work week, and they are probably very well known for everyone. People have better work-life balance, people are more committed and loyal, they are more productive. 4-day work week attracts talent, it contributes to smaller carbon footprint, etc. But many companies and leaders are probably most afraid and think that are they still able to deliver on the same level that they want to when they decrease working time. And this fear is very much understandable. So I think that instead of convincing, instead of getting convinced by someone external, people need to see the actual proof that it's possible to do things differently and more efficiently with their own eyes. So maybe what I would suggest to people is to start with small steps. Start reviewing and improving your work practices step by step. Take them one by one, and ask your team, because they might have the solutions that they haven't even maybe expressed before. And read at Scoro, for example, one of our Bibles is Dave Allen's book, Getting Things Done. That has changed our thinking and approach a lot. And also learn from others. I have experienced that people are very open to share their practices, and they feel flattered when someone approaches them and says, I want to learn from you. So take it slowly. And I think that when you see the progress and get the proof that there are ways to get same results with smaller effort, then most probably you are willing to explore more. And like it was already mentioned earlier also, 4-day work week is not the only solution. There can be other alternatives to it. So shorter Fridays, for example. So I think it's the best when everyone creates their own journey in their own pace and in a way that feels secure and suitable for them.
Sure. Thank you a lot. That's a really great answer. So I think we're slowly transitioning to a QA session because we've got a really nice questions here, so which I would like you to ask. And actually, you talked about advantages, and here's the question also, like, what are real disadvantages of 4-day week? Like, it's it's an open question. Whoever is ready to answer and take the question.
Yeah, so I would say exactly like Annika mentioned that their company were preparing to be able to deliver same things as they were able when working with 5 days. But obviously you have 1 day less. So it means 8 hours less per each employee. And you can't cheat on that. That's so obvious. So I would say that when I hear someone saying, okay, I want to work 4 days a week, but do as much as 5 days a week, I would say it's tricky. So Eva mentioned that now you have time only for the most important things. And that's the right approach, I would say, to be aware that this change has to have some kind of influence. And one has to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree that you have to focus on what's important. And I think that we are today so much better when setting goals and understanding what actually moves the needle. But when it comes to you saying that you have to do the same work with 4 days that you had the time like 5 days before, then we have automated a lot. And like I mentioned, we skipped many things that we used to do. We have less meetings, more focus time, and like these little things already give you back so much time to do what actually makes the change and creates the most important value. So yeah, I mean, I must say that maybe not like 100%, but we definitely didn't decrease our goals 20%. That's not the case.
Okay, thank you a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I also just add to it that sure, you can't perform as many tasks in 4 days as you can in 5 days. Like obviously you have less hours, but it doesn't mean that less things can get done and your goals have to change. Honestly, like what we saw is that it really increases productivity in the longer run, right? Like first, that the 4-day work week allows like employees to be more present, undistracted, focused during those work days. So you're just making those hours count, right? And then it also really reduces your technical debt because you're not creating that many mistakes. Like reduced hours, and more rest pretty much means more clarity, more energy, bigger attention to details, and that pretty much contributes to fewer mistakes, oversights. And then you also have less meetings, right? Which generally is a morale booster, which generally takes away like the amount of meetings you probably are going to cut by moving to a 4-day work week, by moving to even asynchronous work, just saves you so many hours that maybe those 8 hours from, this 1 day off would probably be fitted into that. The same way like certain procrastination or tasks that you just can't do. So we didn't minimize, like we didn't just reduce our goals, like that didn't happen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's all about efficiency, right? And sometimes we just do unnecessary things, which could just, eliminated on the way. Okay, so we got a question about the legal implications of this kind of change in terms of a contract and in terms of salary. And also there's a very short question about if the employee actually is being paid for a full working week, even if it's 4-day working week.
I would say that this is a really good question, the legal background. We operate in 5 different countries, in 5 different legislations, and we didn't change the employment contracts. Instead, we introduced the change and made the agreements with internal documentation. And we didn't have issues with that. And the main reason behind that is that 4-day work week is like ahead of its time. And in some legislations, it can be that if we pay for that, if we say that people work less hours, then it's considered part-time job, and it may affect people in the future. For example, when they start getting their pension. So this is something that we cannot predict, and we didn't want to go, and we didn't want to take the risk to do it. So at one point, when the legislation supports this kind of approach, then of course we will take the following steps. But currently, people have been very understanding, and we haven't had any issues with that. And when it comes to salary, then at Scoro, yes, we pay for 5 days, so they kept full salary. And there was something else.
Yeah, about the salary, and maybe like about the countries, but you mentioned that it's the same in in
Okay.
countries. Yeah, anyone else wants to add? And maybe you have this kind of a concern as well, or had this kind of concern.
Yeah, same here. I think that should be obvious. I mean, if you would cut 20%, it wouldn't mean you have a 4-day work week. It's not about this. The only reasonable approach is to pay the same, in my opinion.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. But I know that a lot of companies that introduced 4-day work week also reduced salaries. So for anyone interested in finding work in a company with a 4-day work week, I do recommend going to 4dayweek.io. So you'll see like there that there are so many filters you can set, like whether it's 4 days and 100% of salary, right? Whether it's actually 32 hours, or maybe it's 4 days, but it's 10 hours per day, because that's also another thing that a lot of companies introduce us. And then you have also the whether it's Fridays off, Mondays off, or you can choose whatever you want, right? Or whether there are half days. So some companies like put very specific, let's say, restrictions and rules on that, and some are super flexible, right? G2i, for example, like it's just 42 hours. Whenever you're going to get that done, then that's when you're getting it done, and it's also 100% of your salary. But it does make a nice point in negotiation if you have, like during making someone an offer, right? You do not want to fail us, obviously. You do not want to reduce salaries, but if someone you want to hire exceeds your budget slightly and there's not much you can do, this is something that you can always rely on, I would say. And people do treat that as such a big benefit that they can take. I wouldn't say maybe salary cut, but they can be a little bit more flexible in negotiations.
Cool. Thank you a lot. So we've got also a question from Anna, and she's asking about if this solution or this concept that the company decided to introduce was actually discussed before with the employees, and how does this communication probably look like? That's something that I'm adding.
So like I mentioned earlier, we did a company-wide survey asking what would people think about that approach. Do they have any concerns involved? If we would go this way, then how would they like to see it happen? Which day they would like to have off? So from there, we got the idea to make Fridays off, because people saw that they want to have the time to work like synchronously, so that our project was like, someone is off on Monday, then someone is off on Tuesday. That worked for us the best. So yes, we asked for feedback, and then people were involved during the process as well, quite a lot.
Anyone else wants to add?
Yeah, so in our case, we didn't do much of the, let's say, research. We did a questionnaire as well with employees, like asking, what do you think? Is it a good idea? And we just kicked it off like after 30 days probably, or 2 weeks. So we just decided to see what's going to happen. But at the same time, I think as we are a much smaller company that Scoro is, I think that it's simply easier. We are more flexible in making the decisions and changing it quickly.
Yeah, exactly, because we have different time zones and all kinds of things that we had to consider, different holiday policies, different all kinds of things. So
yeah, obviously. So one thing to mention is that we don't monitor holidays. So this is also thing worth to consider when thinking about which day should be off, because basically when you can take any day off, it means that you can have all the Fridays off if you are able to deliver the things. So what we did was some kind of recommendation that this would be the best if the Friday would be off. But if you decide that it's better for you or for the team to have Mondays off, why not? But at the same time, I see the risk that it's getting a little bit more difficult when some people are offline on Mondays, others are on Wednesday. So in general, most of the people used to have the Friday off, and we found it the most convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe one more thing that I would like to add, like just illustrating that it can be really different for different companies, and there are creative solutions to solve the maybe challenges that you face because we have our customer support team, and we want to support our customers, of course, 5 days a week. So our support team actually works in rotations. So for approximately 1 month, they have work days from Monday to Thursday. And then for the second month, from Tuesday to Friday. So they still have this mini holiday, this 3-day weekend, but at the same time, our customers are served. And our support team was one of the teams, or actually, the only team where we saw that it's necessary to hire additional people because of that. So yeah, there are different challenges, but there are always solutions.
Yeah, we did the same. After a few weeks, we learned that we really need some of the teams to be able to, let's say, deliver some of the things on Fridays. So we ended up with some teams like client service and streamer success, so the team working with streamers, that one person from the teams was available on Fridays. It didn't mean that you have to work and spend 8 hours working, but it means that you should be close to the internet, and in the worst case scenario, do something, because in the end, we have our clients, both streamers and brands, and obviously it's not so easy to explain, hey, today it's closed, come on Monday. And this is why it's important to understand the specific of the business. We have decided to have one person online on Friday from the crucial teams, but as Annika said, probably there are multiple options. There are multiple decisions you can make.
And there was actually a question, like, how do you handle that this relations with the rest of the world that works 5 days a week, right? So you just have to figure out what works for you. And the case with G2i is also that we're a relatively small team as well, so it's very easy to navigate that. If we would be talking about a big enterprise that wants to introduce it, you can't be as flexible, but then you can reduce that to just teams, right? Because like we have the same thing. Like if this is a team that for example, client service, right, that they need to be available for clients pretty much 5 days a week, so they do those rotations. But that also allows us to be a bit creative with that, because if you do rotation, let's say that you're going to do 1 week, you're going to be off on Friday, and then on next week you're going to be off on Monday. That means that you get 4-day work week, 4-day weekend, sorry. And there are some people that do that. You just need to make sure that within the teams, you know when you are off, and there is a full flexibility of that, right? But there is also a necessity of a clear communication of like how we're going to handle it. And once you have that, then you can pretty much do anything. But yeah, if we're talking about an enterprise, then that would have to be much more regulated, because then you can't just allow teams to self-organize because it just won't work.
Okay, thank you a lot. So I think that we don't have questions left unless we have a few minutes left and someone wants to drop a last question. So feel free to do that. I also don't have questions anymore, and meanwhile we are waiting, or there is a possibility for people to ask questions. I would like to thank you all for joining today. It was amazing to hear about your experience and to learn about it, and I'm pretty much sure that everyone who watching and who will be watching will gain a lot of insights. Same for me. It was really, really insightful to know about your experience. And yeah, so in case you want to add something, feel free to do that. We don't have much time, but we still have a few minutes left. There are no more questions coming. So if there's no one else wants to add anything, we could just, round it up, and yeah, hope to see you next time then.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Same here.
thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. And hope to see you next time sometime. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.